What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another month of the OCG recap. So again, this month, super dominated by Hellbaz. I tried to look for like top tier meta stuff that I haven't necessarily covered over the past few months, but yeah, we are still very heavy Albars. That Tenyi kind of synchro plant variant, that's running around quite a lot. The one that started to manifest in the TCG, as well as we've seen Flundereese. So Flundereese still kind of sitting around as that second to third meta deck in the OCG, which is quite good. I quite want to, I'm doing at the moment, I'm messing around with it quite a lot in locals and stuff like that. So Flundereese, quite good right now in both the TCG and the OCG. So I've of course looked to find some like kind of fringe meta kind of stuff that topped events, of course, but had that kind of bit of uniqueness to them. So we have Dinos, we have Adignistas, and we have Pendulums. Rather interestingly, a lot in the OCG is nuked for Pendulums, so it's quite an interesting list. But of course, first here we do have the Dino list. We'll get through that in a second. But before we get started, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people on the channel. And let's get into this OCG recap. So of course, starting us off, we do have the Dino list up here. You've seen it as we were doing the intro. But of course, this one, rather interesting, does play the new Dynamorphia stuff so that you can go through into the Fusion, which I think is quite cute for Dinos to kind of be taking on the side. We also see a main deck sales ban. I'm kind of really big on that in combo decks at the moment, especially combo decks that can just like push for game. The fact that like going first, you just call something like Nibiru, combo off, have a good time, and then going second, you just activate it and call anything that's on the board, and then kill your opponent anyway. Yes, you can't use the cards you're calling for like the rest of the duel, but that's fine. Like normally the game's over. So yeah, we'll get through the profile for this one. Starting us off, we have 2 copies of Amadorned Archosaur with 3 copies of Ash, 3 copies of Baby Ceresaurus, really maxing out in the baby lines. We see 3 pet and 3 baby. Then we see 3 of the new Dynamorphia Terizia? I am still not sure how to say that one. Then we've got 1 Pancratops with the 3 Maxi, 3 Misk, of course, because they have 3 Misk, with the 1 Overtex Quartless, 3 Pet, like we mentioned earlier, along with our Scrap package, so we've got 1 Scrap Chimera, 2 Scrap Raptor, 3 Solini Oviraptor sitting here as our primary normal summon, along with 1 copy of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Then we see 2 copies of Called By with the 1 Crossout, 2 Double Evolution Pill, 3 Fossil Dig, 1 Lost World, and of course the 3 mentioned sales bans from earlier. And then we have the 1 copy of Dynamorphia Frenzy, which you're going to be getting off your Dynamorphia card. Then we go into our extra deck. We do see 2 copies of the Dynamorphia Fusion Monster, followed up with our Xyz package of 1 Dweller, 1 Dolka, 1 Lagia, 1 Dweller. Not 1 Dweller. That is 1 Tornado Dragon. Then we have our link line of the 1 copy of Access Code with our 1 copy of Earth Charmer, 1 copy of Boral Sword with the 1 copy of IP Masquerena, 1 Unicorn, 1 Linkuriboh, along with our other Charmer, which is the Light Charmer. Then we have our Mechwanite and our Scrap Wyvern coming through after that. Interesting choice of the Mechwanite Avramax kind of being like a pseudo-boss monster out of the extra deck. You gotta like it. And of course, OCG continuing the trend at the moment where every deck just plays a Charmer. Like every single deck is just like, here's a Charmer in the deck. If anything comes up, I will use this Charmer. Then we have the side deck. So we have 2 copies of Alpha the Master of Beasts with the 2 copies of Nibiru. Something also to consider is to pick up your Megatin Alphas over the next few kind of weeks. This card is very good against Albaz, so definitely consider having it for your sideboard. Then we do have 2 Token Collectors, of course, coming through after that. For our removal, we have 1 copy of Duster with 3 copies of Lightning Storm. Then for our traps, we have 2 Bid Nim Barrier, 2 copies of Imperm, and the 1 copy of Red Reboot. Okay, next off, we have our At Ignista list, and of course, we do need to switch this over to our OCG so we can properly see that the Maxi is not, in fact, banned, like it is here. But for our At Ignista list, we have 3 copies of Achichi, then we have 3 Ash with the 1 Baruru, 1 copy of Don Mari with the 1 Don Shin, and then 1 Doyon round out our one-ofs. Sorry, we still have some more one-ofs coming up. So then we have 3 copies of Effect Failure with the 1 copy of Gachi At Ignista, 1 Ghost Bell, 1 Ghost Ogre, and then the 1 copy of Hayari, 3 copies of Maxi, and then 3 copies of Pakari At Ignista round out our monster lineup. For the spell cards, we see the 3 copies of AI to Meet You with 1 Aidol Reborn, 2 copies of Called by the Grave with 1 Crossout Designator, 3 copies of Sign Out Mining, 1 Fei-Iting Spirit, and then 3 Ignista AI lands, 3 Imperm, and then 1 Vanities round out the main deck. For the extra deck, we see the 1 copy of Wind Pegasus at Ignista with the 1 copy of Light Dragon at Ignista. For our links, we've got the 2 copies of Access Code, 1 Cyberse Wicked, 2 Dark Infant, 1 Dark Templar, 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul, 1 Firewall, 2 Splash Mage, 1 Arrival Cyber Setting Nista, 1 Transcode, and 1 Update Jammer. This list's extra deck very much just translates straight through to the TCG, except for the 1 copy of Heat Soul. We will probably have a list going up on the channel over the next few weeks. That is Jake's Adding Nista list. He's back on it again. So we'll try and get the list up on the channel as like a regular TCG profile. He also has been playing that quite a lot in Master Duel. So that is something to consider. This deck actually works pretty well in Master Duel, so definitely you can give that a consideration. Then for the side deck, we have the 1 copy of Droll and Lockbird, 1 Ghost Spell, 2 Nibiru, 1 cute Link Spider in the extra deck, in the side deck. Not 100% sure as to why. I'm not 100% sure on the interaction with that. Then we have 2 Droplets, 1 Duster, 1 Storm, 2 Twin Twisters, a lot of back row hate in this deck as we see 3 Dim Barrier, and the 1 Red Reboot rounding out this side deck. Okay, and now we have our Pendulum list. So the Pendulum list, yeah, like I said earlier, quite interesting. It is, yeah, very much a Pendulum list that is a lot of weird techie one-offs because the OCG has a lot of these cards just at 1 that we just have at 3. And they're like, what have I just played? All the one-offs. You do also, of course, have 1 Heavy Metal First Electromite, which kind of evens it out. So for the main deck for this one, we do have our 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs with 1 Astrograph, 3 copies of Black Fang with our 1 Chronograph, 1 Double Iris with the 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Harmonizing, because it's at 1, 1 copy of Luster Pendulum with the 3 Maxis, 3 Oath Dragon with 2 copies of Odd Eyes Revolution, 1 copy of Performer Pal Celestial, weird that this is at 1 because it's kind of just a decently good plus card, with the 1 copy of Odd Eyes Synchron, 3 copies of Penstalk with 3 copies of Joker, 3 Purple Poison with 1 Stargazer. There is, of course, the 1 Time Gazer floating along as well to go with your Astrograph Chronograph play. 1 copy of Dark Worm with 1 Gate Zero, again, at 1. Then 3 Wisdom Eye round out your monster lines. Then for your spells and traps, very condensed. 3 copies of Duelist Alliance, 1 Star Pendulum Graph, 1 Time Pendulum Graph. That is realistically all you need in Pendulums. You can even trim this a little bit if you'd like to. Then for the extra deck, 3 copies of Supreme King Dark Dragon Starving Venom. Of course, banned in the OCG and the TCG at 3 over there. So there it is. Then we see 1 copy of Baron de Fleur with 1 Savage, 1 Ignis to Prominence, 1 Shooting Riser, 1 copy of Supreme King Dragon Clearwing, and the 1 TG Wonder Magician. Interesting, no Scythe-Lock, although I think Scythe-Lock got banned over there. Imagine having Scythe-Lock banned. Feels good. Then we have the 3 copies of Xe, or 3 Xes in the extra deck. It's 1 Dweller, 1 Hope Harbinger, and then 1 copy of Barguska. Then, of course, for our links, we have the new card Beyond the Pendulum with 1 Hulk and then 1 copy of Electromite. For the side deck, we do see 1 copy of Pank with 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird, 1 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, 2 copies of Cold By, 1 Duster, 2 Storm, 2 Evenly Matched, 1 Imperial Order, 1 Impermanence, and 1 Red Reboot. But that wraps up here for this month's OCG recap. As always, do comment down below if there's any decks from the OCG that you want me to chase up. Given that we're in kind of a defined meta at the moment, we may sit through it for another month, although I'm fairly sure their list is due April 1st. Odds on that's going to absolutely destroy Albars, so definitely we might see a bit of a change up. I know in the OCG, they typically kind of play the new format for the last week, so I'll try and cover decks from that week to try and get an outlook of what things are going to look like going forward. But, as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.